Anupama Chopra and welcome to FC PopCorn, which is a film companion original podcast and in which folks we're going to be talking about all things pop culture. Joining me today are my colleagues, fellow critics and fellow curmudgeons, Rahul Desai and Prathyush Parasuraman.
And today we'll be talking about all things Shah Rukh.
A topic I am never ever tired of talking
I've been
about.
waiting to say that for a long time.
Given that you wrote an entire biography on him a few years ago.
Exactly. I was thinking about when we decided that it is Shah Rukh back on screen after 5 years almost. What is Shah Rukh Khan 2.0? What do we want to see?
So I'm fascinated by what he said at the David Letterman show, which is that he's an employee of the myth of Shah Rukh Khan.
Which I have to say was first said in my book.
Oh!
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yes. He said, I am just an employee of the Shah Rukh Khan myth.
And I'm worried a little bit, but I'm very fascinated by how the myth has changed. Right? Because when I started watching Shah Rukh Khan, the myth was romance. It was about the gesture.
What was your first sort of memory?
It was Swades in theatres. But, I mean, irrespective of what he was doing with that film, he was the romantic hero, right? And then Dawn came, and then 2007, the Abs came with Om Shanti Om. And suddenly there was this tilt in not just who he is, but whom he's doing this for. So in the 90s and 2000s, you were getting a sense that his target audience was women, right? Who were sort of charmed by his presence, by his charisma, especially given his interviews and how articulate and kind and funny and, all of it that he was. But now suddenly there was this movement towards refashioning his body in a way that men will appreciate more. He was moving towards the erotic, away from the charming in a certain sense. Almost as if he was trying to court a different audience with the action film. And this is something that Shayana Bhattacharya in her book, Desperately Seeking Shah Rukh, keeps talking about, which is that all of these women that she talks to keep talking about this distinctness of his personality post Om Shanti Om, which is that after that, women have not enjoyed his films as much and they gravitate towards his interviews more than his films. Because they still love Shah Rukh, right? They still love Shah Rukh, they're charmed by him.
For the record, yes.
So I'm just fascinated by what he's doing with that, because suddenly, I mean, in Pathaan, you've seen his body, the way it looks. And we're no longer looking at that charming Shah Rukh who kisses the neck of his lover. We're looking at something very different. And what is that? That is what is both worrying and fascinating for me right now.
I almost feel like it's 3.0 because it's been a while. Like, I thought 2.0 is, as Prathyush mentioned, when the Om Shanti Om era basically started, and it became more about how he looks, and it became more about not just Shah Rukh, it became about Salman and Amir together with him, because I think at some subconscious level, I think all three of them were trying to do the same thing after a while, and that's why Amir stood out for so long, because he took his time, and the other two were chasing the same kind of cinema, the same kind of audiences. And that's what in Shah Rukh 2.0 I found a little disappointing, because I've been a fan for the longest time. And I'm like, the reason we all loved him in the 90s is because he was sort of an everyman hero, even though he was a king of romance. He also showed that kids like me or people like me who'll grow up without really being obsessed about our looks or being aspirational physically, can still sort of aspire to certain things, like fall in love or fail at the exams or things like that. And that's a large part of my personality was defined by what he did in the 90s. So when he started doing say something that Salman had already started, I'm like, okay, this is the superstar era, basically. They're chasing the same audience. And that's what's been gone on. That went on for almost a decade now. And, you'd be hard-pressed to really name a Shah Rukh original in those 10 years. There were a lot of there was only Shah Rukh before that for the kind of cinema he chose to do, for the way he chose to look as well. But as you said also, because he started chasing a different kind of audience, and it also coincided with me becoming a professional and sort of stop. I stopped being a fanboy at some point, and of course you have to do it when you get into this line. It's also the best and worst thing that's happened to me, because earlier I used to lose my objectivity about someone like Shah Rukh before I started reviewing films. I could barely get myself to admit that okay, this just didn't work. But now I've reached such a point of pragmatism because of the kind of films he's done in the last 6 or 7 years that I don't really ever remember the part of me that was so crazy about him in the 90s. And that's what I hope to regain when 3.0 begins. From what I mean, it's too early to judge. We've only seen the trailers. But from the slate of films that he's chosen, that looks like he's going to do in the next year or two, I have a feeling this is going to be a more pronounced version of 2.0.
Yeah. It's interesting. You talk about women loving him. So I remember doing this interview with him just before Chennai Express released, right? And Chennai Express was also a different SRK, right? So I remember asking him, this is such a vivid memory that I said to him that, you were this guy you were Rahul, you were Raj, you were the guy who did the Karwa Chauth in DDLJ, you sat in the kitchen with the women, you were like all things Western with this golden Indian heart. And, us, meaning middle classes, upper middle class, we were your core constituency. And I was like, this guy doesn't feel like that, the guy in Chennai Express. I said, are you cheating on us? And he was so taken aback. He was like, no, I love you all. but yeah, you're right. I feel like I 3.0 might be a more pronounced version of 2.0. But I wonder, guys, if that might not be what the zeitgeist is asking for, because what I've been told repeatedly and what I've heard all through post Pushpa is that our heroes need to have more testosterone. And there's no room anymore for the guy doing Karwa Chauth. It needs to all be now Pathaan and Jawan and abs and the rest of it, which I want to say is a bit of a shame.
That also speaks to the limitation of his stardom then, right? Because when you're looking at stardom, you think that it has the power to set the zeitgeist and not follow the zeitgeist. And if he's doing only action films, I don't know what Donkey is going to be about.
Yeah, Donkey, I can't say anything about. But technically, it's not a VCF film.
Right.
But still, we're too close to it for me to talk about it. But yes, Donkey will not be testosterone heavy, for sure. Raju's just not that guy.
Right. So we don't know. But that's the thing, right? We're hoping that he would be able to bring back the romance that was fading from our cinema. Because again, this is just fascinating example that I think Michael Bass wrote in his book Muscular India, which is that after 2007, after the Day Disco, there was an increase in gym memberships. And so now you're seeing that it's men that he's catering to, right? Men who want to look a certain way. And this might just be a pronounced version of that. He's just, I don't know, are those abs working for people who watched him swoon and fall in love in the 2000s? It's not working for me, so.
I mean, the funny part was Om Shanti was supposed to be a parody.
That's right.
It was supposed to be a parody on the Hindi film industry, on Bollywood. And people took to those abs, and the parody version of the superstar he was playing so, they took to it so fast that I think people started to take it seriously after that. Like Shah Rukh himself might have taken that as a sign of doing a certain kind of role also, and catering to what we call, like masses. And he's been doing that very consciously for the last 10, and as you said, which was quite amusing. Is he cheating on us? That's actually something I could think, because for better or worse, he was always the urban darling for the longest time.